Davenport, Florida, the city that taught me to never say never. I used to say I would never live in Davenport. When I would come here to show people houses, I was just like, this is too far out of the way for me. Now, mind you, at the time I was living in Kissimmee. In 2020, we relocated from North Florida to Kissimmee because, like most other families, when we came to Orlando, we would stay in Kissimmee. We would stay at the hotels or the Airbnbs there if we were going to Disney and things like that. Now, fast forward to 2025, and I've been living in Davenport for almost 2 years now. And I'm gonna tell you guys something. This is such a great, wonderful little town to be at here in the Central Florida area. Now, in this video, I'm going to go and do a map overview for you guys so you can understand what Davenport looks like, because if you look it up on Google Maps, you're probably only going to see incorporated Davenport. It's actually a pretty nice sized town here. So we're going to break down the 3 major zip codes here in Davenport on Google Maps. We're going to look through so you guys can understand what each area is like, what it's like to live there, what you have nearby there in that area. Now, if you're looking for a pros and cons video, go to our channel. We have a Davenport pros and cons video where we talk about the good and the bad of Davenport. But in this video, this is for those of you that want to see things visually and want to understand where things are at from someone who lives here locally. My name is Joe Mark Concepcion with the Friendly Homes Group. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel where we post videos every single week to help you guys that are relocating to the area be able to make a better decision. You can follow us on TikTok or Instagram as well at the Friendly Homes Group for daily updates on new construction communities and houses in the area. So without any further ado, guys, let's go check out Davenport. Whenever you look up Davenport, Florida, you're going to mainly see this area right here. If we search just Davenport, Florida, you're going to see incorporated Davenport right here. It gets a little confusing here in this area, to be honest with you, with Haines City and down here as well. This is what you'll look up if you just look up Davenport, Florida right here. Davenport actually incorporates a lot more than that. Unincorporated Davenport is going to run kind of like this, up Highway 27 all the way up to this Four Corners area. So you'll be able to see it if I click on this zip code right over here. You can see this is our Davenport zip code that we'll be talking about. So you can see it running here on this stretch of Highway 27 and north of I-4 right over here. If we go to 33896 zip code, which we'll be covering as well, that kind of entails a lot of the ChampionsGate area, but also over here into the side east of I-4 as well. I do want to give you guys a little bit of information here on this area. ChampionsGate, it is considered part of Davenport zip code wise, but it is in Polk County. So the county there for ChampionsGate is Polk County for a lot of this area right over here. Overall, you've got Davenport from around down here into Lake Marion Creek Wildlife Reserve, up Ronald Reagan Parkway right over here and into this area. So basically most of this over here that you see with houses is going to be in the Davenport area there. So I want to cover this in 3 zip codes. We're going to discuss the zip code 33837, which is the primary zip code where incorporated Davenport is at, but also the surrounding areas. And then we're going to go into 33896 and 33897 as well. We're going to start down here and we're going to work our way up here all the way to the Four Corners area so you guys can kind of get a visual of what's around and what it would be like to live in these areas here. So let's get moving. Here's the 33837 zip code. As I mentioned before, it covers the incorporated area of Davenport right over here, but it also covers some unincorporated areas as well. Like most of it is actually outside of the city limits or whatnot of Davenport. First, you have Davenport right over here. So this is very old school, the area of Davenport where people have resided in for the majority of the time right over here. So you have 3 major roads that you can really think about whenever it comes to the Davenport area. You have Highway 1792. Yes, it does have 2 different sets of numbers there. And 1792 actually runs all the way up through Kissimmee, up into Orlando, North Orlando. I mean, this road just keeps going, keeps going. So this was the old way, the only really way to get down here from Orlando or I-4 as well. But at least if you were coming from the central part of Orlando, a lot of people would kind of work their way down this road right over here. Because of that road, a lot of development has started happening just off of the road, and a lot of development happened as well in the past years. Of course, again, this is the main town of Davenport, and like any other town, you know, the grid kind of starts off of the main road or whatnot. Right over here where you see these grids right over here, this is where there are older homes, older communities there in that area, no HOA kind of thing. And then just south of that, we have a lot of new construction communities that have gone up in the recent years. And then you get into the Haines City area. If you could see the difference between this all over here and this, that's the difference between old right over here and new homes that have gone up in this area right over here. We'll work our way up. I want to show you first here off of 1792 because this is kind of the lesser populated area. A lot of construction is still going on, a lot of things that can happen here in the near future. You do have one major community, which is called Providence. This is a 4,200 home community where they still have homes that are being built at right there. This is actually where I reside right over here. Big community, golf course, very nice amenities and things like that. Right next to us over here, this section that is kind of a mixture of older homes and there's a few newer home communities. Davenport High School is right over here. These communities here have all been built within the last 10 years. Some of these are older. This is a huge resort right over here called Solterra. That's kind of what's going on in this section. Now, I want you guys to look at here, kind of all this green right over here. In these parts of town, right down here, this is very, not rural, but it's definitely more old school suburban, like, hey, there's neighborhoods, there's streets and things like that, but there's not that much happening here, okay? Most of us that live in this area, for things that we want to do, we are driving 15 minutes or so here to Posner Park and to some of the major stores on Highway 27 over here. To get the I-4 ChampionsGate area is a 15-minute drive or so. This is gonna be a little bit more secluded right over here. There's a lifestyle for everyone, right? You know, it's a little bit more quiet, it's a little bit more secluded. It kind of has its pros and cons or whatnot. That's that section there. Now you have the western section of the zip code, which is Highway 27. This is the major highway aside from I-4 that runs through Davenport. Highway 27, a lot of exciting things happening there. There's a lot of new communities that have been built there. There's a couple communities right now building homes in that area. So this is the meat and potatoes right over here of Davenport. Now it's split off because all three zip codes kind of converge in this area right over here. So we will discuss 27 in a little bit more detail when we talk about the other two zip codes right up here. In this section, you can expect a lot of new homes. You can expect a lot more activity going on. This is a very busy highway right over here. Highway 27 is not a small one. Highway 27 runs for quite a while here. A lot of new things, like this is a brand new restaurant right here. There's just all sorts of new restaurants and stores, things like that that are being actively built here on this Highway 27 stretch, which goes right into Haines City just south of here, which also has a lot of new things going on. Like they're building a brand new mall right here in this section here called Crossroads Village Center. That's going to be very similar to Davenport's very own Posner Park right over here in this section. That's the 33837 zip code in a nutshell. There's still in the future, expect a lot of development right off of Ernie Caldwell Boulevard. There's a few communities that have been built right over here in this stretch, and a lot of this is raw land just because of the way that things are going. Not saying that I agree or disagree with it, but I do expect for there to be a lot more construction. For example, there's a new townhouse community that's going up right over here in this section of Ernie Caldwell Boulevard there. So do expect a lot of new things to happen here down the road. You also have Ronald Reagan Parkway right up here, which gets most people from ChampionsGate, that area, over into Point Siena. Now, something that I do want to point out is that there is going to be a connecting road. So this is Highway 429 right up here that has created a lot actually. Because of this highway, a lot of construction has happened in Horizon West, which is Winter Garden, as well as Claremont here. Nevertheless, this road is going to be expanded and the goal is for it to connect to this parkway right over here. So this is a newer parkway that goes from Davenport to Point Siena. It is a toll road and it's a mighty expensive one at that, by the way. I feel bad for the people that have to drive this road all the time. This highway is going to work its way down over here to connect to Point Siena Parkway. And later down the road, they're actually expanding this road to go south of Lake Toho right over here as well. The goal in Orlando is to have roads that kind of circle the whole thing where you can drive around Orlando there. So did want to point that out, that this has already been approved. This is a project that's coming in the future. We will have that here in this area. I think I've covered everything for 33837. As far as, you know, what it looks like and things like that, we have videos on our channel where you guys can actually see us going around the town and getting different clips and things like that. Recap of 33837, Highway 27 over here, where a lot of new things and exciting things have been happening for years. This is where the expansion into Davenport has mainly happened, has been in this zip code right over here, because the other zip codes were already kind of built up before. And then you have this section right over here, which is just next to Reunion there in Kissimmee. Publix there, Aldi, and some stores and things like that. And then of course, ChampionsGate right next door, I-4, which we'll talk about. And then you have the eastern side over here, which is just mainly residential communities and houses and things like that. There's not a lot of commerce happening in this area right over here. Beautiful. Now let's take it on to the Davenport zip code 33897, which is a zip code where a lot is happening as well, but not really on the residential side. There's not that many new homes going up in this area anymore, just because it's kind of really built up pretty well. As you can see, they're not really going too far here into this wooded area. And then here on the right side, there's a couple of tracts of land there that seem to be buildable per se. There's no current activity happening there. This zip code, it's north of I-4, which runs east-west here in Central Florida. Until you get up to this little area right here, it's going to encompass the western side of 27. But then we start to get a little squiggly here, and you know, that zip code has a little bit of land right over here. ChampionsGate, it's a little tricky with the zip codes and with the zoning and things like that. Then you run up right over here. All of this here is all Kissimmee. So all on this side is Kissimmee. This West Side Boulevard runs down for quite a bit down here, and all of those properties are newer properties there in Kissimmee, all built within the last 10 years. Some are still even building to this day. Here in this zip code, you can expect a lot of resale houses in that area. You can expect be a little bit closer to things. For example, you know, it doesn't matter really if you live in the middle or up here or down here. This drive right here is about a 10 to 12, 13-minute drive from Four Corners, which is Claremont, Davenport, and Kissimmee right over here. This is about a 10 to 12, maybe 15-minute drive on a bad day here on Highway 27. It is a 3-lane highway there. From here, you can get down to Posner Park, which is the mall here in Davenport. You also have tons of restaurants and small shops and things like that. They've just recently built right over in this area. They're building several different storefronts. These are buildings with 4 to 8 different storefronts there, and there's a few of them that have gone up there that are starting to rent. Actually, this is it right here. My apologies. As you can see, restaurants, IHOP, Applebee's, things like that. For those of you that like golf, this would be a great place, great area to be in, because you have the ChampionsGate golf courses here. You also have Highlands Golf Reserve Golf Club. There's a small 9-hole course here, Polo Park, 9 or 18, but also Southern Dunes down over here in Haines City. Come over to Providence. If you like golf, guys, Southern Dunes was very nice. That place has 187 sand traps in it, or sand dunes. It was quite a different experience. This is the 33897 zip code. Again, you can expect a lot of resale homes in this area. This is a more ready, a little bit more active kind of lifestyle place. If you want to have shorter commute times and things like that, this is exactly where you want to be in Davenport, is in this section right over here. It looks big, but there's really only development and things like that going on in this area. But when I tell you that they're adding new things every day, I mean, this is less than a year old. Put new restaurants right over here in this plaza. This bank, I don't even know if they're open. Yeah, they're open already. But all of this is brand new. These apartments are brand new right over here. And one thing to note, school district wise, that they're going to have better schools there than the 33837 zip code, except for Davenport High School, which is a good rated school. Speaking of schools, we go into more detail in our Davenport pros and cons videos. We do have school choice here in Florida. So if you don't like the school that you're zoned in, you can take your children to another one in the district. And we also have free public charter school options as well that are available for your children. Last but not least, we're going to cover here the 33896 zip code here in Davenport. And here we are. The main part of that zip code that's heavily occupied is the side here where ChampionsGate is at. If you remember, the previous zip code kind of ran up right through here and on this side. So 33896, several very nice neighborhoods right over here in this area for gated neighborhoods and things like that. And all on this side of I-4 right over here. This is the more heavily populated area per se. When you come off the exit, you go right down through here and you end up on Ronald Reagan Parkway, which does run and turn into that Point Siena Parkway Road that I told you the tolls were a little expensive. On the east side of I-4, it is just south. It borders Kissimmee and Reunion there in Kissimmee. Right down here is that area that I showed you just a minute ago where I said there's Publix and Aldi and things like that. Few new projects going on in that area. It's still, you know, as soon as you kind of pass Aldi right here, it gets very rural very quickly. in this section of town. Right over there, we have several new restaurants and things like that have come up in this area. One thing that's very exciting that has happened for Davenport, one of the reasons I would always say I would never live in Davenport was because the traffic was really bad. The infrastructure hadn't caught up to the demand yet, and the demand was massive during those years where interest rates went down quite a bit. They have alleviated traffic so much. In April of this year, I-4 got an additional lane added to it. This section right here, which is where a lot of people come down from Disney. And right now they should be done within the next few months. They're expanding the bridge here. The I-4 goes over this road right over here. So they're expanding the bridge and creating more lanes for entry and exit here from the interstate, which has been absolutely phenomenal. Thank you to the state of Florida for putting a rush order on that, because this was a real bottleneck. If you've been here, exit 58 at ChampionsGate in Davenport has historically been an absolute nightmare. And I can tell you, like, with a very serious straight face, they have made such improvements to the experience here in this intersection of I-4 here at exit 58 with Osceola Polk Line Road. It has been phenomenal. I do want to cover something that I completely forgot to talk about, and that Davenport is a city that has a lot of second homes and investment homes as well. What that means is it's a very Airbnb friendly kind of place, and we have a lot of absentee owners here in this area. Now, most of those absentee owners are going to be in two different sections over here. Most of them are going to be in this 33896 zip code near the ChampionsGate area. These communities here are very Airbnb friendly for the most part. Now, there are some communities down here that are Airbnb neighborhoods. For example, Solterra Resort is a resort that is mainly geared towards Airbnbs. And then you have the smaller Aviana Resort down here, as well as Watersong right down here as well. For the most part, again, most Airbnbs in Davenport are going to be in this section. And then in this section right over here, a lot of absentee owners, a lot of British owners, actually, people from Europe. They've kind of built up this area here, and this was a very second home heavy kind of place for them. A lot of people have those type of homes right over here. I hope this video helps you really understand what Davenport is like. Again, this was just an overview looking at the maps. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Our number is 321-321-4844. We do have a pros and cons video of Davenport that you can check out on our channel, as well as all the new construction communities that are actively building right now in the Davenport area. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to our channel where we post content like this every single week to help you and your family make a safer, better decision when relocating here to Central Florida. If you haven't yet, again, follow us on TikTok or Instagram at Friendly Homes Group for daily updates where we post every single day. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a phenomenal day, and we can't wait to help you and your family move here to the area.